So over to you, Andrea. What's your take on vertical banking? Maybe you can briefly introduce yourself as well as Vitamin.
Sure, happy to do that. Great to be here, and thank you for having me. So my name is Andrea Fernandez. I'm actually, as you said, the CEO and co-founder of Vitamin, originally from Costa Rica, but had lived kind of all over Latin America and Europe. And started my career in private banking actually 23 years ago at JP Morgan, which was kind of the beginning of my path in terms of asset management and sort of helping customers build wealth and develop their financial futures. And that is a big link to what we're trying to do now with Vitamin. So during the last years, I spent a lot of time working one-on-one with women to determine what was missing and why women have this great problematic, which is that they are not only facing many gaps in terms of the pay gap and the retirement gap at the end of the day, but also that they haven't been, 87% of women have never considered investing as a solution to build their financial futures, actually. So that's kind of where the origin of Vitamin was. And we decided to build Vitamin at the end of last year. Vitamin is going to be basically a financial home for women that helps them power up their financial futures. And what that really means is that we're going to be offering we are offering from financial education, because it's quite critical for women to learn about why these gaps exist and why it's so important to close them and how to do that, to then savings and investing solutions that help them get there. Moving on basically to vertical financial services. Vitamin is focused on women, and women, we consider it a vertical because it's a huge vertical, right? It's basically half of the population. So from that perspective, it may not be as focused as the vegan dog owners, but we do think it's a vertical because we are very focused on looking at the very specific needs that this female demographic has, and within that at specific groups. As I said before, women have been, unfortunately, in the financial services industries, women have been left behind. And so it's about time that they catch up, and that, through the company as well, we give them the offerings that they need to take the financial steps to improve their life. So this customer focus is super important for us. And that's how we think about and why we think about it being a vertical in some way. But as I said, it's not just about banking for us, because banking is the beginning, right? It's how we use some of that banking data to, expand the financial life of the woman and to grow it.
Thank you, Andrea. Clearly a very big topic that you're tackling there. So I would be interested, since vertical banking is all about understanding customer needs and being customer centric, how do you decide at Vitamin which features to develop next, and how do you involve your target group in the development process?
Yeah, I mean, it's a path, right? It's an ongoing path. So we set up ourselves a product vision before we launched the company, given all of what we knew and what we thought was important to address the women needs. And at the beginning, we started to work on a very systematic process, including user research, and we do that up to now, where we have a hypothesis and we develop some ideas on what that hypothesis could look like and that offering could look like, and we engage customers in the user research process on an ongoing basis. And actually, we do that now. It's been a focus of us from an early part, but now we have a really strong product team who's helping us on an ongoing basis, including a user research specialist. And so that's probably my favorite moments of the week, when I get to see the users react to what we bring forward to them. So it's that constant evolution and really trying to understand those insights that can help us, take on the next thing that will make a difference. And for women, one thing that is critical is women haven't been, as I mentioned before, taught to consider these as options, right? And and women tend to be more risk aware in their decision making around financial products. Therefore, really getting deep into that and understanding what is the thing that they need to shorten that process, because we're very focused on investing. I personally think what really changes a woman's life in the future and closes these gaps, the way we can do it is by investing as soon as possible. And so how do we make that time frame from realizing this is an option for me to action quicker? And we spent a lot of time thinking through all of these things, but also, I mean, addressing that with women on an ongoing basis.
Yes, and I mean, if you are now successful with this, do you believe you're opening up an entire new market there, or are you actually taking market share away from other players there? What's your view on this?
Well, let's put it this way: only 13% of women in Germany invest in equities, right? So there is a lot of room for growth. And women have a ton of money sitting on the sidelines. Women are 50% of the population, and there's a huge flow of wealth coming to them from the post-war generation. So of course, it's a huge new market that hasn't been tapped before.
So clearly a blue ocean that you're opening up there. And if you look at the fintech market and its evolution, what do you think will be the next big thing in fintech?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, so there are a couple of things going on at the moment. One thing that's super interesting is, and going back to, I think how they closed the triangle of the last presentation, which was very cool to see the drawing. You know, we talked about the marketing piece, the product, and the user. We just talked already about user and product, but this marketing piece is super important because there is this customization of finance going on at the moment, which I think is super important, and it will be really interesting to see how that evolves. People are have identified before with brands on the consumer side, and now they're starting to identify with brands on the financial side, just like with a consumer product. And actually, that's something that's super important for us in our DNA, because we're building a brand that, like a consumer fintech brand for women. So seeing how that evolves will be super interesting, how brands and fintech brands play into the life of users. So that's sort of maybe midterm, short term. I'm just very curious about that because I have a consumer products background, and I think this is super important and goes along really well with, you know, connecting with your users. But then when we look into the long term, I mean, we have you see, I mean, and you're part of this fintech, the evolution of the financial providers, right? Solaris being one of them, many other providers. Now we have all of these pieces that can come together to bring for users much better investment solutions, much better financial services. And we're moving towards this, what we would call sort of finance on autopilot, so on autonomous finance. And I think it will be so interesting to see how this develops, because at the end of the day, finance is not that easy of a topic, but we know that we all want to have a strong financial life. We know that it's good for people basically to build, a financial future, that the governments are not going to be able to give us money at retirement. Therefore, the responsibility is more on us. But at the same time, how can we make that for users much more automated, that they only need to get involved in certain decisions, but not all the time? And I think, all of the elements, we see this happening in the US, and we see that all of these elements are kind of coming together at different pieces of the, let's say, financial services flow for an individual. But yeah, let's see how that evolves. And I think that will be fascinating to see how it evolves over the next years.
Yeah, and when speaking about embedded finance, we always speak about, let's say, non-bank players pushing into financial services. If we now think the other way around, can you imagine players like Vitamin also moving into non-financial services again once you've tackled the financial services side of things, and maybe providing services or products which have nothing to do with finance?
I mean, I think it's a very interesting question, and it has come up. It's not our, we have to deliver on the main vision right now, which is the financial services discussion. But I do think that we have talked about this, and it's something that has been a lot on my mind, because I think what's very interesting is we're talking about an user. And this user has several needs across, right? Women have several needs depending on their stage in life that potentially come together. Yeah, finance is just an enabler. So it is a possibility. It's we see some models in the US that are very focused on women and that are focused on women across different areas of their life now that have recently kind of gained quite some, a lot of financing. And it's because there is, when you look at a customer, you need a more holistic approach. So I wouldn't say it's our immediate, I don't see it in the very near term, because we have something, a big issue to tackle, a big mission to reach. But I can imagine that once we have this in-depth relationship with users, there could be opportunities. But yeah, it will be interesting. That's another interesting thing, how the companies serve these needs without identifying themselves as unique in a unique industry or like service proposition, and kind of broaden up